Hi friends, I hope you had a good weekend. Today, in this video, we're gonna get right into it. It's just about painting some loose flowers again. I'm sharing 5 tips on how to loosen up more, and we're gonna be creating a spread of flowers. Very simple, perfectionism free, and hopefully to boost your joy. So let's get to painting. So today, friends, our painting practice is gonna be very loose, very kind of go with the flow, and use a variety of brushes today. So today I've got my brush collection here, of course, but you can use whatever brushes you have. If you have filberts, if you have some round brushes, if you have some daggar brushes, or this one is a quill. We've got some other shapes here, a nice flat brush as well. So just kind of use a variety of things. I like to start big. And to speak to that, painting big. So I know you're wanting to know kind of how to loosen up, how to let go, how to do the flowers that hopefully bring a lot of joy. Because they're going to be simple, we're not worried about technicalities or anything. So I'm just going to start, because I have a big piece of paper, I'm going to start with some big petal shapes. So I'm just going around and thinking, okay, I want to make some bold flowers. What does that look like? So we're just going from the outside in, creating that flower shape. If I want to wet on wet, I can grab a little bit of some darker pink and pop that in as well. Some nice petally shapes, we'll let that dry. Just grabbing whatever colors. So this is going to be an exercise, a practice in letting go of your expectations. And that, I think, ladies and gentlemen, is a way that we can find a lot of success, because if your expectation is this gorgeous painting, let's do a little petal shape there. And at this point too, I'm telling you, hey, don't you necessarily copy what I'm doing. Kind of just put those marks down on the paper and see what happens. Let's take a flat brush if you have one, or just change up your brush. But the whole point is just to have a little watercolor practice and not worry about what you need to do to get something perfect, okay? So I'm going to keep adding different colors to my puddles here, and it's going to change up the variety of shades that I'm going to get. Even within your petals, look at that squared petal. Even within each petal, you can change up the color a little bit and experience some differences there. So that's a kind of fun shape. I like that. With the filbert, we have such rounded petals, but this is just different. I'm going to add some brown to it. It's a little unique. And so I'm going to use the side of the brush too, if you have a flat brush, and add in some really thin marks. This is kind of cute. We so often get stuck with the same brush. We use the same thing because that's what we're comfortable with, but maybe that's not the way to go if we want to grow and get comfortable with this. So this is kind of that muscle memory practice today. We're painting from, one perspective here. We're trying to paint different perspectives, I guess, from the same angle, if that's what I'm trying to say. Not changing our paper, not twisting and turning it, not putting it upside down, but just trying to get our wrist to twist and turn and get those shapes down. I'm really liking these colors that are coming out. Oh, that's a nice bold yellow. I'm liking the shapes as well. We'll do leaves too later. But you can keep working on your wet on wet practice if you want, just more bold paint going over some of the shapes that you've put down. Well, that's pretty. And when you do that wet on wet, you don't always have to then add in a second layer because you've already done the contrast. So I'm going to use my larger brush, and we're going to do what we could call some really loose rose shapes. Still keeping it light. So I'm just kind of going around a little circle there, just quickly making some kind of curved marks. We're going to call this a rose, but it's not going to be a belabored practice. It's going to be quick. So as you're doing this, I want you to check in. How are you feeling? Just kind of curving, cupping that center. It's probably outside of your comfort zone, and that's okay. That's what we're working towards. We're working towards, when we work towards our being out of our comfort zone, there's a process called flooding in psychology where you start to get really anxious and worried about something as you're exposed to something that scares you. But as you keep doing it, your body realizes that you're okay, you're not in danger, and it relaxes, and that's called flooding. So we're kind of doing that today. Maybe you're totally comfortable, and that's good too. Just putting in some really pretty shapes, just keeping it different. If you want to add some blues in here, you can. I typically do those warmer colors, but I'm very aware that there's other colors on the palette. And, so just do what you like. I'm going to do some side-facing flowers upside down, right here. It's so fun just to see what comes out of this, just continuing to mix these random colors from my palette and see what comes out of it. So now we're starting to add in, some filler flowers that can fill these spaces in between. We'll use leaves too to do that. But, painting big, of course, is one way to get really loose. Another way to get loose is to use a big brush and use bold brush strokes. So that's why I've got the filbert, I've got the flat brush, I've got this beautiful dagger brush by Christy Rice. It's another large one. Let's just work with that for a little bit and see what happens. So we're not picking, the perfect paint here. We're just picking whatever comes up. Oh, wet on wet. That's pretty fun. This is like my favorite way of color mixing. Just continue to add a little bit of paint to the puddle that's there. And it's very simple, it's easy, it's stress-free, and whatever happens, happens. So I want you to check in with yourself, kind of think about how are you feeling right now. Is this totally outside of what you like? Are you starting to feel that kind of flooding experience? I think it's getting a little bit easier for you. And if you're enjoying the video, please hit the like button. I always appreciate that. I can do some bold marks too from this. So, painting loose, I think the whole point of this is to quickly get those brush strokes down and then figure out later what you're going to do. So that third tip, for me, at least, painting big with a big paper, painting big with big brushes, using blobby shapes. That's the third thing. I mean, if I have to say it, you can see it, but using blobby shapes, like not perfect shapes. So you can even just, like I'm doing here, just kind of pressing down. I'm not even paying attention to what I'm doing here. I'm just pressing and dabbing. And these are going to be flowers. I don't want to fill up all the space because we want to have space for greens, but this is quite fun. Just blobby. And allowing that to dry and then starting to add in more details. So let's go with our number 6 round. Gonna grab the greens that you want. It doesn't matter what greens. You can't see my greens. I think they're off the screen here because we've got this huge paper, and that's fine. We're just gonna start adding in our stems. I like to curve them. Also like to add in different colors of green, different shades. So curving them, this is a quick project. If it's very joyful, it's something that you might want to try again sometime with maybe different shapes or different subjects. If it feels very stressful to you, you might want to try it again. Same subjects, maybe different mindset, kind of breathe through it. I know for some it seems silly to have anxiety over the things you create, and yet our anxiety, if we have it, it tends to come out really boldly in our art. And that's what we're trying to fight against that by just continuing to be in that moment and deal with it. So The next thing is we're gonna add some leaves. Go with my number 1 quill. Whatever you want to do. Of course, you've got so many greens. You know, I've got so many greens to choose from, and so I'm literally just gonna put in these quick brush strokes. I like to have some large ones and some small ones, just filling in this whole space. This is just a big practice to get you comfortable, to get you kind of comfortable with your brushes, with painting on 2 pages, and that might not be something that you're used to. We tend to like to paint really small, especially we feel comfortable when we're starting out, and so this is something to break you out of that habit. It's all about, you know, trying things and building confidence and, you know, figuring out the brushes you love to use. What kind of marks do they make, you know, and do you hold them really tightly and towards the tip? Do you hold them more loosely? What's your style? Get some brown in there. And so C-curve shapes are fine, little stem. Or you can kind of press down and swoop around and make some pretty marks there too. So check in with yourself. How are you feeling now? I hope that this is giving you some insights into your style, into what you can do. Because, you know, looseness, I know you don't have to paint fast. For me, it's a must, but it isn't for everyone. Some people, they can stay loose and paint slower, and it's more of a meditative practice for them. For me, that's just not how it works. I'm an overthinker, and so the more time I give myself to think through where I want to place something, the more I can get to a place where I'm not, you know, able to create as loosely or as comfortably or even in a way that is making me feel happy. Because the overthinking causes the caution and kind of the worry, and then like if I overthink, then I end up creating a painting that's a bit more, it's tight, it's maybe belabored, maybe overworked. So, all right, I'm just putting in quick little stems for some of these. And, you know, this could be a piece of art, of a work of art, as they say, right? You might find like this is a work of art for you, or you might find it's a painting you never want to see again. But are you getting the concept of just doing something and doing it in a bolder scale and feeling comfortable with that? That is the whole point. So now the 4th tip for that looseness is, you know, to paint your details after, okay? So we've got some, what I called kind of loose roses, right? And the very basics are on there. But now once it's dry for that 2nd layer, we're doing the details. And that's helping you to be loose. If you're more of a tight, intense painter, then maybe you're going to try to do the details in that 1st layer. But that's not what we're doing. And we're going to start with, let's see, I'll grab that filbert again for this one. Just going to go a little bit bolder, so a little bit darker paint than what we had. And again, we're keeping it loose, so we're not going to do, when I say details, dab your brush, because that's going to help you control how much water is on your brush. I'm not really doing a lot of details because we are still keeping it loose. So I'm just doing these quick swooping motions, and that's kind of it for this one. I'm not going to go intense in any way. I'm going to use this same paint for some of these others, swooping around quickly. So I'm just trying to put some contrast in there. And let's see, we'll grab some orange and change up our pink a little bit. And I can see where I've used a filbert brush, so I'm kind of keeping to that. And just a little bit of detail can be just really beautiful and fun. This one has some great detail already, so I may not do much with that. I'm going to use this orangey one to add in a little more extra color. So you can do different shades. You can do multiple shades in one painting. And layering is just fun. We'll do our center too later. So for right now, I'm seeing a lot of the angled petals. So grabbing that flat wash brush, whatever colors, just making sure that your paint has a little less water than it did before. To help with water control, dabbing your brush, but I don't always feel the need to do that. So that's pretty cool. I like these shapes. That's nice. So brown, let's add some brown in there too. Again, we're not trying to win an art show. We're not trying to create this masterpiece. We're just trying to create a peaceful experience. So over here too. And high contrast will create more depth. And then the fifth tip, you guys, because there are 5, in terms of painting loose, for me at least, is to find ways to appreciate each shape and the experience itself. So looseness, you might not like having very few details. You might not enjoy that. Maybe you're a painter that kind of wants more of that structure, but I don't want you to walk away from a painting thinking, oh, I don't like that style, so that was a waste. I learned nothing. It was a terrible experience. It wasn't relaxing because it didn't turn out how I needed it to turn out. So that is the wrong way to think through this. And I'm not saying just when you're painting loose, but in general, when you're painting, you got to think through what are 2 or 3 things that I love about how I painted this, how it turned out. And you can think about 2 or 3 things that you don't love. And it's simply a research project on what you want to repeat and what you don't want to repeat in the future. So if you can learn from what you might call mistakes, you can make sure that you repeat the things you love and you don't repeat the things you don't love. Does that make sense? It becomes a way for you, because if you're trying, you're learning, and you're going to make what you'll call mistakes, can you learn from it? Then it's not a wasted experience. Sure, the paper might be something you want to throw away. That's okay. But what have you learned from it? And I think that's the big thing in life too, when rough things happen. What's the takeaway? How can you use it to improve, to be a better version of you, to take care of others better, to take care of yourself better? Those are some huge clues that you can learn instead of thinking, I am the worst, I'm a terrible painter, I can't do anything right, I always make mistakes. Those are terrible narratives. Don't do that. Don't do it. It won't make you happy. You can do it, but it's not gonna make you a better person or better at what you're doing. All right, we've got those details in. This one here looks neglected. To get a little purple in there. Of course, you don't have to do purple, but I started with purple, so I want to end with purple here. So just a few more bold details on this one. Now, I'm going to take my number 6 around, and it's clean, I dabbed it. I'm going to take off some of this puddling that's happening. I'm going to remove some of that because it was really soupy. All right, I'm going to grab some green for some centers and just add in really fast brush strokes, loosey-goosey for all of these. And you can even go darker if you want, like this one here. I'm painting fast because this is a fast, loose project. And then for the centers, this one also needs one. It's still wet, so it's gonna spread, and I'm okay with that. And then this one too. So there's that. And then I want to connect with some green, connect some of these flowers, the base of it, with the stems. So that's another little tip. Don't forget that part. Of course, you don't have to do it. These are loose, but I like the look of it. I think it looks good if you need it. And, I'm checking in once again. How are you feeling about your painting? Have you kind of thought about the things you like and the things that you don't like, what you want to repeat, what you don't want to repeat? Such valuable information to learn for next time. And if you wanted to do a 3rd layer when this is dry, you could do that. I'm going to leave it at this. Again, it's a quick practice, so I'm not gonna spend all day with it. I do want to put some splatter, so I'm just gonna grab some green, really runny paint and just tap my brush to add some splatter. I'm also gonna do some pink, so we'll add that in too. I just think it adds to that loose look. It's just whimsical and fun. And then if there's anything you want to add, I'm going to add in some stems for some of the leaves that didn't get them. Just right there. And that's pretty much it. I hope this was really fun for you, and I don't know, that you learned some new things about yourself and had fun. Well, now that we painted together, I hope that was relaxing and peaceful for you. I want to remind you that I have a free watercolor class coming up tomorrow. So click the link below to sign up. If you can't make it, you will get the replay. And that's it for announcements. Happy painting, happy mental health. And if you're not sure what to watch, watch this one next.